speaker of today's program, to this webinar. Actually, this year we are of starting getting our alumni involved in the development of the institution in one way or other way. And one of the ways is conducting alumni lecture series. And this was started, and today we are having second this alumni lecture series, and it will continue like this only. So at the outset, I'd like to welcome all the people who are online, that too during second Saturday afternoon after lunch. Everybody is joining and they are here. For that, I'd like to thank all of you. Today we have our speaker, Manjit Singh Rawat, who is specialized in supply chain management. And we also have our former principal, sir, Professor C.V.S. Subramaniam, who is going to chair this session, and he is going to introduce the speaker to the audience, and then the lecture will start. Now I'd like to hand over the stage to CVS sir. Sir, please.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Giriraj Kulkarni. Again, on behalf of Gokaraju Rangaraju College of Pharmacy, I welcome you all to this too. And we are happy to announce that we have a distinguished alumni of GRCP today to address the students and the delegates for this webinar. It is a pleasure to introduce Mr. Manjit. Sri Manjit Singh Rawat is the head of supply chain in Commonwealth independent states and Romania markets for Dr. Reddy Laboratories. He was there with Dr. Reddy. He has been postgraduate in pharmaceutics from BITS Pilani. He has been there with Dr. Reddy Laboratories since 2008, and he held different growing positions in the organization, starting from production packing, inventory management, and chief marketing officer planning and supply chain. He has a wide exposure and experience throughout the value chain, ranging from planning from raw materials till the distribution of finished products of various dosage forms, tablet, capsules, injectables, and biologics, etc., till the last mile. Apart from the growing regular role, he has been leading special projects for supply chain, like establishing subsidiaries in Kazakhstan, IT integration with the ERP system, and also local and corporate in Ukraine. And Manjit is a vivid supporter of upskilling whatever that is required for the changing times of the industry. He is currently pursuing executive MBA in business analytics. In fact, for last 8 years, we have been seeing him, and we are happy. Now we have a person who has got international outlook and also have the complete outlook starting from API till it reaches the customer. We have been listening to supply chain management for several quarters, and I heard some people who are doing PhDs in supply management. The amazing activities that has taken, and if you consider the Amazon, which is having their own satellite communications and which is having their own fleet of ships for transporting and having a large number of warehouses where products are being put, and everything is sorted out by robotics only, and that was the maximum activity that has gone around the world, which gives tells us what are the type of unique opportunities. But all those are different, and here is a person who is specialized in supply chain particularly pharmaceuticals, because pharmaceuticals have got a special status which is altogether different from all other type of other products, etc. Though I don't call it as a consumer product, but people consume it more. So with these few remarks, I invite Manjeet and also deliver the students of our college and also delegates on supply chain management of pharmaceuticals. Thank you very much. Now I will hand over the mic to Manjeet Singh Rawat.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that great introduction. First of all, thanks for giving me this opportunity. So, because my experience after Gokaraju, in fact, I was a campus recruit, so I can proudly tell that I was picked right from that campus, and after that, I have not wasted a day after campus. And the moment I didn't finish my degree, I was handed over that appointment letter. So after that, everything is Dr. Reddy's, and people tend to have a monotonous fatigue. But I have been privileged and fortunate to work with various leaders inside the company, and they are the experts, subject matter experts in their field. So without doing further ado, so today's structure I will take us all through, because I was given the context of the audience. So I have kept it a brief as much as possible, but you can ask me anything about pharma, whether it is operations, whether it is procurement. I will be ready to answer those questions during the session or after the session, whichever way you like. So, and as CVS sir has already introduced, like Amazons and these things, we will touch base that industries as well, and how it is different. Pharma is slightly different, and what is different, we will try to understand. Since the topic is large, because each slide which I will present, it itself is a specific role people have been doing for years. Not only so, that knowledge of years, I will try to put it in a simple form through illustrations and diagrams and process flow. So I will share my screen.
Yes,
Yeah.
your screen is visible.
Yeah, so I am audible to all. So if somebody has some,
Yes.
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Very clear.
Yeah. So the first slide. So what is supply chain? So supply chain, we always think, what is the importance of supply chain? What is actually supply chain? So it has been organized into big industries of late. But if I have to take an example, layman example, the biggest supply chain or biggest general manager is our mothers and the ladies in the house who maintain the house. So they purchase groceries, they bring it, they plan it in advance. So they are the biggest supply chain role, the reference. So, but when it comes to industry, we have to define it somehow. So there is a broad definition which you can see, saying that it's a series of activities performed by an organization to deliver the products and or services. So what do I mean by activity? So what activities are performed by the organization? So on the bottom left corner, you can see. So this is a broad definition. What does supply chain do? Source what? Source product, raw material, or finished material also, or make it. Make it means manufacturing, and convert into a different form, add value there. And move refers to logistic aspect. because once a product is made, not all the customers are around that facility or where the product is produced. Like AstraZeneca, current example, that Covishield. Covishield is manufactured by Serum Biotech, but it is available of last I had an update. 66 countries we have supported, foreign countries. So the manufacturing facility is one. The move part of supply chain will come into this aspect, and sell is selling to the customers. So these are the broad concepts, definition where we can try to understand supply chain. So it is relevant for manufacturing and service organization. And what is happening on e-commerce? So example we have understood from CVS sir, Amazons of the world or Flipkarts of India. So they are not manufacturing anything. So are they doing supply chain? Yes, of course, but the manufacturing part is excluded there. They tie up with the manufacturing plants which are not their own. They only purchase and sell it to the end customer. They are the biggest disruptors of supply chain. They have excluded the make part. They directly connect the manufacturing plant to the market. So this is a broad definition. It can be aligned according to the specific need or specific status of the organization which we are referring to. So why supply chain? Why it is important? I would like to illustrate with these examples. So first diagram. So it says revenue. So this is the business outlook of a traditional business organization where they were focused on revenue earlier, which was cost of the goods and what is the profit they are getting out of a traditional supply chain, traditional business model. They will be selling the goods and they will be keeping some margin. But of late, when the competition has increased, when the competition between the rivals have increased and everybody has the same product, so then they wanted to look internally where they can achieve the profit element. At the end of the day, whatever revenue you make, profit element is very important for the business organization. So then you can see on the first illustration, then the focus has become profit is equal to revenue minus cost. So it is the same equation, but here the focus has shifted onto profit. So how we can generate profit is there are two ways. Increase the revenue. Revenue has a certain limitation due to external factors. So why not we decrease the cost? So with that mindset, with that focus, companies or big organization, even now small organizations have been looking inside how to achieve cost excellence. So for that, what is the basic recipe? What they should have is understanding understanding supply chain uncertainty. The second element is customer uncertainty. What is meant by customer uncertainty, and ensuring sustainability. So when it is an amalgam of these three, then we can go on to the next aspect, that how we are understanding by these three elements. If we capitalize, we can achieve supply chain excellence. So in below illustration where you can see business, if a business is having a power of brands, like give you an example, like pharma industry. What are we basically in India? All pharma industry is generic industry. What do I mean by generic industry? Is that they are reproducing the drugs which have been innovated by some other company. Till now, there has been no innovated drug by Indian companies, but we have capitalized on the supply chain part. Why India is called now the pharmacy of the world? Because of they have excelled in supply chain and operation, whether it is making the drug, producing the drug, and producing it at an effective cost. So when you go, let me give you a lame example. Like when you ask for an aspirin, it is $10. When you ask in India, maybe it's half a rupee, 50 paisa in INR. So that is where the efficiency of supply chain and the operations has been capitalized by India. They didn't have the power of brands because it was not their brand. They are copying the innovator drug after patent expiry, and they had the power of people who can reproduce it. But where the cutting edge and the efficiency where Indian pharmaceutical industry has excelled is in the power of supply chain and operation. So what do I mean? So how does it give you a focus? So when the competition is there, so for example, Dr. Reddy's is selling a drug, Arvindo has the same drug, and Hetero has the same drug, or Sun Pharma has the same drug. So we cannot tell that my drug gives 10% efficacy than the innovator. Yes. So because if you claim that, then you are not equivalent to the innovator. So certainly you are on the same playing field in terms of the efficacy or the efficacy which is provided by the drug. So then it becomes that you have to provide the drug at a competitive price, not the product, because you don't have the element of branding here, and only where you can play is the price. So price, again going back to my first equation, that is profit is equal to revenue minus cost. Cost operations, cost excellence is what supply chain drives. It is the agenda of supply chain. And when need for speed is required, then supply chain operations and relooking into, yeah, can you mute your mic, please?
Tiwari, you mute your mic, right?
Yeah, and when supply chain becomes important is when there is when we have to respond to the changing customer demands. Like if a company is only doing ibuprofens or only doing a drug and not looking outside and or understanding the customer needs, like what happened in COVID situation, everybody is wearing masks, not only in India, throughout the world. So knowingly, unknowingly, there is an impact, a positive impact on the health. Maybe not on the psychological, but the contactable diseases have decreased. That can be seen in the market data, where if we wear a mask, then the cold, cough, and allergy, these market has significantly gone down by 50%. Maybe due to lockdown, everybody is at home, and due to the changing needs, changing habits of the customer. So if I go on producing the same product at same quantity, and there is no customer who is going to buy that, because now they are practicing a new habit where they are maintaining distance, social distancing, and they are cleansing their hands with hand sanitizers. Of course, there will be an impact, and there will be less incidence of contactable diseases. So we have to understand the market as well. So accordingly, if the contactable diseases go down, so then we have to reduce our production also, or we have to ramp up our marketing operations or sales operation. But if entire market is going down, then of course supply chain is like a gear in a automobile. So for that, supply chain focus is very much needed, or else that organization will not be sustainable. And there are pressures on cost, and because of all these factors, there is a evolving provenance of supply chain. So strategic fit. So it comes under strategy of supply chain or strategy of the company. So it is like relooking into organization capability. Like if any pharma company wants to be Amazon, but they have to understand everybody cannot be Amazon Prime, who can deliver within 1 day, the same day delivery. So they have to understand the demand also of the customer, and what is required to cater the demand. What is the lead time to produce, to order the raw materials, and what inventory they are keeping. So if plotted on X and Y axis, you can see if your supply chain is very efficient and demand is certain, so then responsiveness and efficacy of supply chain is on near to zero. But we have to maintain a balance as the uncertainty of the supply demand from the customer increases, then the responsiveness of the supply chain also decreases. They are inversely proportional. So and basis on understanding the customer and the internal supply chain, companies can adopt many strategies. There are few strategies given on the right side of the slide. It is not hard and fast that they have signed a document, they will be on the same thing. They can be jumping from one strategy to another. Why? I will give you an example. So let us understand what are the strategies companies generally adopt. So suppose chase strategy. What do I mean by chase strategy? So it is like a lean strategy where the production of goods is undertaken when only there is a demand. What do I mean by that actually? So for example, a non-pharmaceutical example, ice creams. Ice creams are there, and when there is a demand only, I will produce. I will not produce in winter or before season. So then we have to understand whether a drug which is in pharma, it is only for seasonal things like nasal sprays. They are very much in demand in cold and flu season, whereas in summer season, when the sun is up and everybody is going out in sun in European countries, the demand goes significantly down. So then you have to be very cautious of what is your product and what type of demand it is. So then the chase strategy, then if you are not certain about the demand and you don't want to take a risk, like if the product is very costly, and if you produce and you are uncertain about demand, then you will have to incur inventory write-offs, destruction costs. So then I will ask my customer, which is a distributor or the patient, so give me some order or a firm confirmation, then only I will produce the drug. So that is a strategy which is called as chase strategy. It can have a different names. It can be called internally. What do I mean by the next strategy called level strategy? It is like you have a consistent fixed capacity inside the plant. So you can produce only 10 metric tons in 1 month. And your demand is not even throughout the year. So, but it is equivalent to 120 tons, for example. So you will produce 10, 10, 10, and you will go on producing, and you will maintain that buffer. That buffer or that level of inventory you will always maintain. You will not see the customer demand, but there will be a buffer in place. whenever the goods are sold, you are going to produce. So that is called as a level. You will see only the stock level and you will replenish that. That is called level strategy. And capacity strategy, where the workforce is there, and according to the capacity and the machine utilization, you will take decisions whether to produce, which one to produce. So where your capacity is constant and you have to take calls, then capacity strategy will be handy. So the next question will be, in pharma industry, what should we adopt? Can we go with one strategy? The answer is no, because you in pharma industry or any industry which are producing many brands, they cannot have a single strategy for all their products. Like I have a product which is well established, which I know it has a predictable demand. I will use the level strategy there, and I am launching a new product into the markets, into the CIS or Romania markets, where I don't know how the customer demand would be. So I would be a little cautious, and I will try to secure that demand, try to understand the market, and then wait for the order and take the decisions accordingly. So in a big organization, what strategy is generally adopted is hybrid strategy. And for example, so a quick thing, so Dr. Reddy Laboratory, so bringing expensive medicine within reach is one of the promises, promises out of 5 promises that Dr. Reddy Laboratory gives to all its stakeholders. So what can be the strategy? So if we understand through this line, bringing expensive medicines within reach, saying that, going back to my first slide, then again we are, because Dr. Reddy's is a generic company, and cost is the focus, because if the cost for the company is less, if the supply chain operations are efficient, if we have supply chain excellence, then only we can fulfill the promises to our customers. So Dr. Reddy Laboratory is also considering supply chain as a strategy, and the focus is always there. In our senior leadership, in the highest position, which is called Management Council, we have 2 persons related to global supply chain. So next, what is the cost structure? Where do the cost go? Because we are talking about cost efficiency. What do supply chain job entail? So it may be related to procurement, it may be related to manufacturing, it may be related to logistics. So if anybody would like to take a guess, what is the difference? So I have already explained in the starting slides. First is the traditional model, where we are planning, where we are sourcing, where we are making drugs, and where we are moving the drugs. So e-commerce model has disrupted, and the make element has moved, but we can see that we don't like a product. We don't like the color, we don't like the size of the shoe, we will return it. So in e-commerce model, there is a return cost also, the return logistic also. Then depending upon the industry, the focus changes, because returning a good is a cost, and it is a significant cost. According to a research, it was around 20% of their total logistic cost, the return logistic. So the importance of return, how we can reduce the returns from the customers, to give them better pictures in advance, better reviews, what is the reviews of the peer of that product. So the focus changes. So they want to reduce the cost in e-commerce model by reducing the returns, or they will put some cost onto the customers, saying that, okay, if you return, you have to pay us the return charges, something like that. So in this, throughout the presentation, I am giving you an example of a traditional supply chain, pharma supply chain, and a FMCG or e-commerce model. So what happens after we sense the demand? So we know the demand. Who gives the demand inside? So the marketing people, the medical representative who interacts with the doctors and therapy specialist or the physicians. They generate the demand, saying that this doctors is having many patients who are having certain kind of diseases. Means he is writing prescriptions for that. That all data is gathered, and the past analysis, what has been the market of this segment, this category, that all are gathered. It is a big data. So they are analyzed, the trends are made, that are given to demand planning. Demand planning will validate that forecast, understand the sources of demand. So whether it is because your demand may come from many places, like hospitals, like your B2B businesses, business to business model will be there. So from business to business or direct customers, or for some public procurement. So all these sources of demand are aggregated, and they are validated, and against that the past data is superimposed. So, and we check our inventory, what we have in a ready form, and what can be produced. So then demand planner will give this requirement to supply planner or supply planning. So then he will assess for me to supply X amount of tablets, or X thousands of tablets, X thousands of injections or vials or whatever it is. I will need some raw materials to make. That will trigger the next plans. So each function inside pharma industry or any industry, it is general, it is applicable to pharma and non-pharma industry. The sales and operation planning is the heart of business. So because it entails all the elements, sales, operations, and what will be the output of this meeting or this conversation would be how much we will be able to deliver to the market. So that is a brief. We can touch go inside, delve deeper if we have time. So what happens? So we have frozen here the S&OP, and we know, okay, we have to make X amount of products. So then the material requirement planning kicks in, because if you need omeprazole or some aspirin or any other tablet, then you have to make that tablet. You will have 10, 15 ingredients. Then you will check inside whether you have the right ingredients in the right quantity and the packaging materials. So all these things are called as material requirement plan. So that is given in the third box. Based on when a product is scheduled to be produced, the procurement team for sourcing the raw materials required to manufacture the product. Aggregate of material requirement for all products at all manufacturing facilities is called material requirement plan. So this is how, so we started with customer, we understood the demand from where it is coming, and we discussed internally that what inventory what is the demand and what is the inventory. That will give us the net requirement, and that net requirement is given to supply planning or production planning or scheduling team. It is applicable to both pharma and non-pharma industry. The process is same. So when MRP kicks in, means you know that what raw materials are required, then you have to naturally source those raw materials. So the identification has already been done, because you all throughout the S&OP meeting, you have tried to identify what you need, because the need will be X number of tablets or injection. Now the sourcing says what I need as a raw material quantity that I need to procure. So the need term is already discussed, and the net requirement is already fixed, frozen. So then some companies have a back-end integration in terms of API for Dr. Reddy's or any big pharma like Aurobindo or Hetero. They can, if they have a requirement of API, they can naturally produce it in-house, or they can go out to the approved manufacturers and they can source it. So that is the decision sourcing manager has to make, and they have to conduct market analysis. Means if they have 2-3 vendors, which one is more cost efficient, and this is a sourcing process of non-pharma. I am just giving a relation to what will happen. The same thing if the same need is in the pharma sphere. So sixth point is identifying possible suppliers, because you will have an approved vendor list. You will go through and you will see that who are the approved vendors. Okay, so there are XYZ vendors. Why don't you call for a quotation for them? But before calling the quotation, pre-screening is done, because you cannot, you are dealing with pharma, and you cannot take raw materials from any source. So you have to qualify those source, and it is called as vendor qualification program, which is done before you source even a gram of raw material or API or FG, finished goods, whatever the form is. The next is 8th one, the remaining supply base. If you have to evaluate what is your supply base, you have a definite capacity, you are sufficient for today, you can cater to the demands today, but after 36 months, whether the same sources will be able to supply you or not, you will have to evaluate remaining supply base also, and then choosing of suppliers and delivery. So these are the next activities. So what is called direct sourcing and indirect sourcing? So direct sourcing is like I am sitting in this office, but it is not directly linked to pharma materials. It is for business to business operations. These kind of chairs, tables, and laptops and everything are called indirect sourcing. And direct sourcing is the sourcing of materials which directly go into making of that product. For example, I am making a tablet, so the API, the excipients, and whatever related to that manufacturing is called a direct sourcing. What I am purchasing directly for the purpose of the raw material going into that raw material or excipients getting into the product. And as I mentioned, pharma vendor qualification is performed for each new vendor with periodic quality inspection. So there is a vendor qualification program as per US FDA as well. So which mandates that you have to inspect the vendor, and the periodicity is also mentioned when it is like 2 or 3 years, what the company deems necessary. But when your supplier has undergone a big facility change or a expansion or a big machine replacement, then also you have to do an audit. So there are certain guidelines which are written as per US FDA and MHRA. These are the guiding documents how we have to perform the vendor qualification aspect. So examples are given. What you will do for long lead time products, what you will do for short lead time products, and how you will measure the performance of the supply chain. So, for example, to give a real-time example, I am producing a product which is 8 months lead time. What do I mean by lead time? When I place this product, after 8 months, I will get the after 8 months of placing the purchase order, I will receive the goods. So I have to plan in advance. So that is called as a long lead time. And during this 8 months, entire market can go down. Or COVID, if COVID was not there, COVID can happen. Means in 2019 or 2018, if I am taking this decision. So I don't know. I will not take COVID into consideration. I will give my long lead time plans. So, and in supply chain, there are key metrics against your forecast, how you are predicting the demand, and you are pulling all the resources, pooling all the resources, and making the product. At the end of the product, if this, at the end of the lead time, which is 8 months, this is not sold. So then it is like inventory cost to you, and which is not good for the organization. If everybody forecasts and prepares in advance, then the company will not be sustainable. We will have a lot of write-off. That is what then forecast accuracy is measured, saying that marketing is giving us insights or demand planner is giving the insights. Against the insights, how would the demand of this product would be, and actually what we have sold. That is called as a metric, that is formed as a metric called forecast accuracy. That is compared, or that is viewed every week or every month, whatever feasible for the organization. So as per the industry practice, it is monthly viewed. What was your forecast accuracy you have prognosed for this month, maybe before 6 months or 8 months. So even today, sitting here, a supply chain will have a visibility. What will be my sales in terms of the last 3 digits in the million? What would be the sale after 12 months? So that visibility supply chain has. Yeah, so this is an illustration how a general purchase or sourcing. So this itself is a very in-depth profession of and pillar of supply chain, and this is where we are as an industry, we are spending the money. We are sourcing something to produce our finished goods. Then the cost control is absolutely necessary. How you can do cost control? If there is an X product, and you have only a single source. If today that supplier can say you, okay, I will give you API, active pharmaceutical ingredient, at 100 rupees per kg, and after a few months he can tell 1000 rupees per kg. Because pharma is very complex, and whenever you have to go for a new supplier, you have to go for a regulatory filing in the countries wherever the end product is filed. So it is a very costly process. So again, sourcing can be divided into the commercial sourcing and strategic sourcing. So this is in terms of pharma supply chain, which I have given you an example. So the next is supply chain logistics. So what we have done earlier, we have seen how the production is done inside and how the raw materials are procured. So then after the make or the finished good is ready, you have to send it, or you have to make the product happen to reach the last mile. What do I mean by the last mile? in case of pharmaceutical industry, is distributor or the apteka in medical shop. So that is called as a logistic, and what it entails. There are different elements like distribution, transportation, inventory, logistic planning, and warehousing. So we have a definition. What is logistic? So I have already told, it is a process of moving and positioning inventory to meet customer requirements. And there are certain elements which need to be adhered to, that optimum time and positioning of goods and the total landed cost, minimal assets. In pharma logistic, let us give you an example. So Sputnik V. So it is -18. That end product has to be maintained under -18 after it is produced till it is given to the patient. So it cannot be maintained at room temperature. So that is how we have to be very diligent and prudent that all our supply chain logistics is also efficient enough. If you produce the vaccine, if you do everything, if you are not able to maintain the temperature during transportation, then the whole idea of getting a vaccine approved is lost, right? So that is also a critical thing. I gave you an example to visualize the criticality of pharma logistic as well. So it is like what it was and what it is. Like logistic also will depend on the demand forecasting. Like we will maintain hubs and global distribution centers to maintain the three parameters which is on the top of the slide: optimum time and place, and how we will arrive where we should place that global distribution center, or where we should put certain inventory. That is all considered in the logistic aspect, and how it can be visualized in future. Like already we are seeing a spurt in digitalization. Like there is a very good bite saying that because of COVID, what digitalization currently we have, if the COVID was not there, it would have happened only after 10 years. So right now we are having this conversation over Google Meet. So, but the adoption by the consumers would not have been so rampant because there is a need. So digitalization is the next future in every aspect. So it will also touch logistic. It is already being heavily used in terms of logistic. Blockchain, that is under discussion and under trials with Merck, with MSC and Amazon. Artificial intelligence and machine learning is the future. So I am doing a business analytic course. That itself is a course, so I will not delve deeper into that. So artificial intelligence and machine learning is also can be heavily involved in terms of logistics. So, and IoT, Internet of Things in logistic, like where, so nowadays the customer want, okay, when my vaccine, where is my vaccine, where is my courier, like I am sending it to overseas, so whether it has reached or not. For customer satisfaction or real-time thing, there is a update that is also Internet of Things, but that is at point to point. But in terms of your critical shipment like Sputnik or Pfizer's Pfizer vaccine or Moderna, so you need to locate the vaccine on a real-time basis and what route it had followed. So then you will place a data logger with a GPS tracker, and you will keep on monitoring till it reaches the destination. So, so it itself is a very big department, or we can discuss if anybody on this call want to discuss any of these topics, they can reach me, or they can ask questions, they can post the questions on chat, they can connect me offline also. I will give you my numbers or how to contact me. So supply chain inventory management, this is also very important in terms of any industry, and pharma industry also, because when you produce a stock which is not for use, it is a hit to the management, or a hit to the company finances, or if the company is listed, it is a loss to the shareholders. So you have to produce very consciously. So your demand has to be very up to the mark, which is frequently calibrated by forecast accuracy, and you will maintain certain type of inventory levels at your warehouses across the world, not to go stock out on the product, because there will be many medical representatives who will be promoting the product every time, and when they lose the customer, if once the customer goes to another brand, he will never come back to the brand. So you have to take that aspect also, that if you don't maintain inventory, so the customer will go to the alternate brand, because both of the competition are generics, like Dr. Reddy's, Teva's, and Aurobindo, or whatever it is. So you have to be very diligent how you will maintain this inventory. There is a algorithm how you can maintain the inventory, how you have to calculate the safety stock. So, and this governance mechanism is very important in terms of inventory management, that you will constantly relook into the inventory, what you are producing, what you are purchasing, and what you are selling. So there can be a continuous review or a periodic review. So for this there can be two models: vendor managed inventory and replenished model. So what is vendor managed inventory? So for example, I can give you an example where the demand is very certain. Vendors keep, if you are a pharma company, so you will need packaging materials, right? So if you establish an industry, the ancillary industries will quickly populate around that. That is a cycle, that is a value chain, and these are the vendors. They maintain some inventory at all time at their end to quickly replenish. Or you have to get into a strategic relationship with your vendor, saying that this is a continuous demand product. I cannot purchase everything at a time, but you have to maintain that this level of inventory, like 60 days of consumption at your end at any point of time. Or replenished model, that you will purchase it, and when the inventory level goes down, then you will purchase again. You will do the frequent replenishment when the stock goes below the threshold, as shown in the above graph. So, and this is an economic order quantity. So, for example, how you can achieve logistic optimization. So you are purchasing, somebody may ask me, you are purchasing the same product many times, why can't you purchase everything at a single time? That will be less of work. So that can happen if my repurchasing cost is very high, because if I am purchasing some packaging material from, if I am sourcing manager for some Telangana plant, if I am purchasing something from Delhi or overseas, so I cannot do that activity many times. then there will be a call saying that what is my economic order quantity. So if you can visualize this graph on the right top, so total cost, and there is a sweet spot where cost and ordering cost meet. So that is the lot size which you will prefer to order. So this is inventory management concept in supply chain industry. So then again, distribution and transportation. So there are many physical distribution strategies. Hub and spoke model, I will explain. So everything consolidates into a warehouse like Amazon has its own warehouse. Every other nearby demand is consolidated at that warehouse and distributed. That is hub and spoke model. Yeah, so there are many pros and cons. It depends upon what strategy you will adopt. Like direct shipping, if you adopt a direct shipping, there will not be any intermediate warehouse. So you will not pay for intermediate warehouse, but you have to maintain extra inventories. So each strategy has its pros and cons. No strategy is correct and no strategy is wrong. You have to maintain a fine balance, and depending upon the product and the capability, the inherent capability of the organization and the organization supply chain, you have to take that call. And there are few definitions industry-wide which is used is third-party logistic and fourth-party logistics. You can Google it. I will only touch base so that it will be a part of this discussion. You can ask me questions if you'd like. So this is a very good data, which is a McKinsey thing. So how do you plan for supply chain disruption? So your supply chain is very agile or easily disrupted. So on the disruption index, like it is given on the y-axis, and how you can anticipate, whether you can anticipate, whether you cannot anticipate. So that is given on this x-axis on this quadrant, which is given by McKinsey. So even in a supply chain where there is a acute climate change or there is a trade dispute like US and China having a cold war or a trade war, then also your supply chains will be affected. Maybe USA will tell, don't purchase anything from China, and for active pharmaceutical ingredients, China is the main hub. So if you don't purchase it from China, where do you purchase it from? Whether you will create that capability in India itself, you cannot create. So then you have to prepare for disruptions, and basis on the insights, the geopolitical factors also, the supply chain has to respond. And if one critical product which is coming from China, which goes into your product, that has to be envisaged, saying that, okay, now the supply chain or the factory will not be able to export. So then you have to be prepared, create for some alternate source for that API if any source is available, or due to climate issues like pollution is happening, the factories may shut down, or government may tell, saying that, okay, this is a polluting industry, we want it to shut down, or you relocate it to any other place. So then it will be, if it is a big company, it can restart its operations, or if it's a small company, so then it is like you are seeing a supply chain disruption there. So there are many disruption, and on the right side of the screen, there is a good thing. So everybody on this call who are directly related, like to pharma industry, or they can, the COVID impact, the pandemic impact has been minimal. It has been there, but it has been minimal across the industry, like aerospace, automotive, mining, electrical equipment, and so and so. Pharmaceutical is the least impacted in terms of revenue. The habits might have changed. Vaccine might be selling more, but overall, in terms of value or the business, pharmaceuticals are not severely impacted compared to other industry. So this is a World Economic Outlook. So what we are seeing for the future, what has happened in the global economy. Global economy shrank by minus 3.3, and in 2021 it will grow by 6 is the indication as the latest as April. So the good days are ahead. So once the COVID is over, then all the industries will come back to the previous performance in terms of finances, but intricately the habits of the customers might have changed. So the last topic is maybe there are many topics: supply chain and counterfeit. So as there was one note which I remember still, that in 2006 there was an official mention by WHO saying that 10% of global pharma products may be compromised, may be counterfeit. So then you can see on your slide an example of EU Falsified Medicines Directive. So what does it entail? So it looks simple, like on the carton or the box, there is a 2D barcode which is imprinted during packing at the manufacturer, and till it reaches to the customer or where the pharmacist is dispensing this product, he can verify whether this product is really produced at the manufacturer or not. So this is the changes which are specific and to a pharma supply chain, because pharma is dealing with health of consumers, and it is very important. Not and in sometimes it might be very determinant to health of the patient if you don't get the right medicines on time. So this was a serialization project where to remember in a shortcut, like each box, I am not talking about the batch, each box is identified by a specific unique serial number which can be identified. So how the data flow is managed, it is given briefly in this slide. So factory location decision. So it is like pharma industry. So how it is going to, how it has done, and how it is prognosed to do in 2021. There are macro indicators. Yeah. So that is it. Would be happy to take any questions, if any.
Thank you very much, Manjit. Very nice, very aptly. Just 1 hour you have taken and you have enlightened us so many things. Let me check up whether in this box it is that there are no, as on time, there are no questions, but a few things. Basically, if everything goes right, probably we may have to have a backward integration of API, which becomes very crucible, so that things will be there in your hand.
Yeah, so that's true, but that will entail a cost for the governments, and they have to give certain incentives. So that was there. Absolutely, you have touched the right point, sir. So there is a Pharma Vision 2020, which is announced by India government, saying that it will give certain incentives who will make a API plants for specific category of drugs, because during COVID, what happened, there was a surge in demand for paracetamols or ibuprofens, and so likewise many products which are used in therapy or treatment of COVID. So Indian government realized that all these raw material crucials are coming from China, because they are very cost competitive, very cost competitive. If and the scale, they have the economies of scale in terms of production. If we can manufacture 100 liters of batch size, they can do it 2 or 3 times faster and on a continuous basis. That is their infrastructure and capacity of operations. Yeah. So there are steps made by Indian government. At least those drugs which are essential, that should be risk mitigated.
Actually, do you remember when 2004 and 2006, when you are doing your B.Pharm, the 200 bulk drug plants have been closed?
Yeah. So in that disruption, because we have to factor in any plant closes, we have to plan a plan B, because each drug will be filed with the regulator of many countries which we are producing, for which we are exporting, and each change is very costly. So the flexibility is not there.
So I hope you have touched upon several things which industrial pharmacy 4th year subject has given you some inputs.
Yeah, sir. Your textbook is also there.
EOQ and all those things. Just in time, ERP, several things. It's very nice to hear from you that some of those things has come into that.
Yeah, so maybe the audience or the students, because it doesn't feel that I have left the college 13 years ago, but of course the decade has passed. So people on the call can ask me anything related to pharma or pharma industry. I'm open for that.
Yeah. What is the time in Ukraine now?
It is 2:14 p.m.
2:14 p.m. Oh, right. So, do you feel that if supply chain management has to go very smooth, they should have a multi-centered production units where the high-value products has to be produced and distributed?
No, because
in different countries.
No, because it will depend on inside, because it will depend. The answer cannot be yes or no. I will give you an example, saying that if I already have that capability, I can produce that drug and file in different countries and export from there. Because even if you produce, or even if you make a factory, then you have to get it inspected, and you need to have that much of demand. If the answer will be applicable only when you have a very huge demand which you are not able to cater from existing facility, then you can look around factories where it has to be done. Maybe I will go back to that slide. Maybe in 2 minutes I will touch base. Factory location, how we are going to choose that.
Right.
Yeah. So this is like how will you take a factory location decision? Like everybody on this call is maybe I am assuming that everybody belongs natively to Telangana, and Telangana is blessed with all the pharma industry, and approximately 40% of India's pharma related API and FG related things are getting manufactured there and exported from Telangana or Andhra combined. Yeah. So then, what are the factors which decide where should I put up a factory? It was given on my slide. I didn't take it up. So proximity to markets. So it can be relevant when you don't have a factory at all, and when you maintain when you establish a factory, proximity to markets, but also your logistics also, whether it makes sense. You cannot be available everywhere in the world, right? Means it is a global medicine. It will go to 190 countries wherever it is filed. You cannot be in 190 countries. Then you will look from raw material supply, back-end integration. If I am having raw material supplies in India only, from where the raw material supply is coming, and most of this ecosystem is made around Telangana or Andhra, where raw materials are coming. Raw materials are what in terms of tablets and capsules or injection is APIs. So chemical factories are also there. I'm talking inclusive both. So then transportation. Telangana has a network and it is easily accessible. So it is one of the factors. If I am given some money, then I will choose a location like Telangana or some other state in India, basis on all these factors. Available infrastructure. We have infrastructure in Hyderabad. Labor means it is like skilled labor. We have a lot of students and pharma colleges and people who are having skills in pharmaceutical industry. And economic conditions, like sometimes we may think, okay, everything is here, then 100% of investment should come to Telangana or Andhra or whichever state it is. It is like economic conditions which are maintained by the government also, like SEZ, special economic zone. For Himachal Pradesh Baddi, there was a tax incentive for 10 years. So if I am invoicing or exporting from that facility, 10 years I don't have to pay to the central government or state government. So then that will drive, and I will see what is the synergy, what is the economy I am getting with each decision. And then I will do a factory location decision. And what is the capital involved? It will be the same. If you are setting up a plant in Telangana or in Delhi or Jammu, the climatic conditions are different, and you have to maintain different type of AHUs, and the electrical cost or the fixed costs are different. All these are taken into consideration, and then we arrive at a factory location decision. And there are government policies, climatic conditions, and public infrastructure. That is the same.
Okay. Giriraj Kulkarni, sir, there were, you are online. Giriraj, there are no questions in the box there, so maybe afterwards they may share. If you permit me, then I will conclude. Giriraj, is he online?
Yes, sir. Sir, sir is there.
Anything on pharma industry, what you want to be. So
Yeah.
I am open.
Yeah, that's good. Actually, here we have a pharma new city is coming at the green pharma city, that is nearer to Srisailam area. A huge area. Several factories are coming up. Maybe in 5-6 years, all these things will come and it will be having a boom in. That's what we say, that Telangana is rising. Only thing is we don't know that devices, medical devices will really come to this place or it will go to Gujarat, but that is also very much on cards.
Yeah. So it is not only a government decision. Government can at least give or maintain the environment. But ultimately, what you are providing this environment to is to the private players, private companies. They will evaluate everything and they will come up with a economic number. What Gujarat is giving versus Telangana is giving. It is as simple as that. Everything is a number game.
Right. I'm just trying to contact Giriraj sir.
Sir,
Giriraj sir.
Basically, Giriraj
I
sir,
am online, sir.
Okay. No, there were no questions. Shall I conclude?
Yeah, we can conclude the session, sir.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Giriraj Kulkarni.
Thank you,
On Gokaraj College, I profusely thank Manjit for sparing his valuable time and address our students and audience. In fact, Manjit, last month we have this Nursery talk, and we are planning for one more talk next month also, probably from here, Australia, some GAF or alumni will be able to share their experiences with that. So, we, on behalf of management and staff, I thank you very much, and we all bless you, wish you a grand success in your future endeavors in the same manner. Thank you very much, sir. Our people will share with you the recording and other things soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
giving me
Manjit. You have given, in a nutshell, whole essence of supply chain management. You have given in 1 hour, which is really highly appreciable.
Yeah,
Because
but
I have seen big books on supply chain management, and total essence you have given in 1 hour, which is really very nice.
thank you,
Thank you.
sir. So I would also like to take a moment and thank CVS sir and Giriraj sir for giving this opportunity. I would welcome any questions from any of our students offline also. I am reachable on LinkedIn. You can find me. And maybe if somebody has some professional dilemma, what they want to be in future, maybe I can give my insights. I cannot influence them. So what they can be on a professional or a personal level, please be in touch. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I will message the LinkedIn profile also.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I will
Thank
search
you.
you on internet. I have my LinkedIn profile. I will find.
Okay.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
So, Srinivasa, shall we conclude?
yes, sir. Just now I posted this feedback form also in the chat room. Please, participants, fill this feedback form today by before of 8 p.m. After that, it is going to be automatically closed. So it will not take any feedback after 8 p.m. So before of that, we need that feedback, sir.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, every one of you.
Thank you, Manjit sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Srinivas garu. Thank you.
Thank you.